Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we are going to be looking at what exactly is a trigonometric ratio. Okay? And there are actually three of them that we are going to look at in this particular video. And in a right angle triangle, this is the most important thing. We should be looking at right angle triangles. And there are also, the very first step to this topic would be, we need to know the names of the side. The first side that we are going to look at is this longest side of a right angle triangle. I'm going to zoom in now. And the name is given by hypotenuse. Okay. The key letter here is H. Alright. Now, there are the other two angles, and they are actually very importantly, they are named with respect to a specific angle in the triangle, which I'm going to illustrate now here. Okay, so if this is O, okay, opposite. So if the angle we are talking about is here, angle BAC, then with respect to this angle BAC, the name of the other two sides would then be adjacent side. Do take note, adjacent side always touches the angle, and the opposite side do not touch the angle. The hypotenuse remains the same, the longer side. Alright, so in this case here, we would be talking about the adjacent side. Paying special attention to the letter A and the opposite side. So now, if the angle that I'm actually looking at changes, instead of angle BAC, I'm going to look at angle ABC. Hypotenuse, the longer side, is the same. But because of the way it is being defined, adjacent side must be the one that touch the angle and make the angle with hypotenuse. So now BC, the side BC, will become the adjacent side, and the opposite side now changes to the length AC. Okay, so one thing to remember is that the adjacent side and the hypotenuse will make the angle that we are looking at. The opposite side do not touch the angle. And with this in mind, then later on, when we talk about the abbreviation, do bear in mind the letters that make up these three sides, namely H, O, and A. Okay, so again here is A, H, and O. And with respect to this, then the next part here, this is what we define to be the trigonometric ratios of an angle in this symbol theta in a right angle triangle. Okay, so we have three. So now we have sine, short form is SIN, sine, We have cosine, short form is COS, cos, cosine. And we have tangent. And notice how we get the ratio. Which side divide by which side? For sine ratio, we are looking at the opposite side. Divide by the hypo. So you can see that it is actually, sometimes you will see people writing it as O over H. Opposite over hypo. For cosine, how do we get this ratio? We are going to divide the adjacent side with hypotenuse. So you will see A divided by H. And for tangent ratio, which two sides are we going to divide by with? We are going to divide the opposite with the adjacent side. Opposite is at the top. Adjacent side is the denominator. Okay? So sine, cosine, tangent are functions that relate to an angle due to the lengths of the sides of a right angle triangle. And people have come up with a way to remember them. But before we go over to that, let's take a look at one example to illustrate these three ratios. Okay? So, for the following given right angle triangle ABC, we are going to be looking at angle A. So I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to draw this also. And so we know with respect to this angle A, step 1 is for us to not do the ratio yet. We are going to identify the name of the side. Longer side is here. This is my H, hypo. Side AC will be my adjacent side because adjacent side and hypo make the angle that we are looking at. And opposite side, do not touch the angle. So, for the ratio, sine ratio of this angle A, so this is how you read it, okay? This is how you read it. Sine ratio of angle, in this case is A. So I will say angle BAC. That's how you read it. Opposite. That's how we know it. It is always the opposite side divided by the hypo side. So sometimes you do see me writing as O divided by H. And therefore, this one, if I go back to the particular diagram, then it will be my O. O is letter A divided by my hypotenuse C. So in questions, you will be given the numbers or the values of this variable A, B, and C. Okay? So repeating this. So how do we read this? This one is actually the cosine ratio of, again, angle B AC is equals to, we have defined it to be adjacent side divided by hypo, meaning that you will see, sometimes I write this just to remind myself before I give the final answer. B divided by H will be C. And lastly, how do we read this? This one is actually, we are trying to find the tangent ratio of angle, again is B, A, C. And this time round, we are actually looking at opposite side divided by adjacent side. So, O divided by A. And that will be the answer. And if you lived in Singapore or in the Asian countries, then you would have known a dialect, which is a special language, a dialect called Hokkien. And this is how we have came out Tua Ka So, which literally means beat foot auntie in Hokkien. So we got 3 ratio. If it is Tua, T-O-A, then you will see the tangent ratio and the opposite over adjacent. If it is cosine ratio, adjacent divided by hypotenuse H. And if it is the sine ratio we are looking at, we will have to divide opposite side, divide by the hypotenuse side. Alright? Last thing to remember, each ratio do not carry any units. They are just a ratio that will help us to solve problems. Okay? With that, we have come to the end of this video where we touch on the definition of trigonometric ratios. In subsequent videos, we will be looking at some examples of mathematics problems that will ask about trigonometric ratios. And if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and do remember to subscribe.